Hey Canucks fans, what do you think of the Canucks TV broadcast team of John and John? I'm Clay Emo, I'm at Canuck Clay on Twitter, I'm at Clay Emo on Instagram, I'm the founder of the GLCBC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club, and this is my Canucks Take, all in one take. It's Clay's Canucks commentary for Wednesday, April the 1st. Now before I get to today's topic, I want a quick programming note. Tonight I invite you to join me for my semi-weekly, that's twice a week, YouTube live stream at 10 o'clock. But I'm going to make a couple changes tonight because I want to differentiate the midweek one from the big weekend one on Sunday nights. So tonight I'll only go for about 30 to 35 minutes, and I won't invite one of my kids down because of the shortened time frame. So I'll save that as a special treat for the weekend one. So please join me tonight for about 30 to 35 minutes. We'll talk about the Canucks, we'll talk about NHL, we'll talk about COVID, whatever you want to talk about. Even if we're simply checking in with one another. That's tonight, 10 o'clock on YouTube. I hope that you will join me. Okay, for today I want to talk about the Canucks broadcast team, and in particular the TV broadcast team, the local one, the one we see on Sportsnet for all of the Canucks games. Now, The Athletic, you guys know I subscribe to The Athletic. They're coming up with some really creative articles, and one of them that they released this morning was ranking all 31 local broadcast teams. So they had a few qualifications. They didn't do national teams, national broadcasting teams. They did English only. And there are a couple of markets that have more than one local broadcasting, combination. So they had to pick one or the other. But they, in essence, came up with a unscientific ranking of 31 broadcasting combos. And they did it by a way of a poll, a reader's poll. And they kind of weighted the local respondents with the out-of-town respondents. They did a weighted average and came up with all these rankings, and it was pretty good. It was kind of fascinating to read. And the Vancouver Canucks, I won't get into the minutia and how they weighted everything, but in essence, you need to know that the Canucks ranked number 12 out of 31 teams. And that, of course, is the combination of John Shorthouse and John Garrett. So right off the bat, does that 12 ranking surprise you? It doesn't for me. I definitely think they're good. I think they're above average, and 12 is slightly above average. I wouldn't have been surprised if they were in the lower part of the top 10. But of course, I don't watch the other 30 broadcasts, so I can't say for sure. But I really like John Shorthouse and John Garrett as a team. I find Shorthouse has got a really good voice, especially for TV. And he's very knowledgeable. Well, he's a good voice for radio too, but he's a good voice for TV. He's got good presence, very knowledgeable, and I think he does a good job of letting the play speak for itself, and other times really describing the play very well and using good vocabulary, not using a lot of cliches, and thinking. I was going to say quicking think on his feet, thinking quickly on his feet. And I think it's a way harder job than anyone can imagine. So I think John Shorthouse does an excellent job, and he's had some memorable calls over the years, especially Alex Burrow's slaying the dragon back in April 2011. And we've seen that actually a few times over the past few weeks as we're starving for Canucks content. So I love John Shorthouse. I think he's solid, and I've met him in person a few times. Always very nice to me, very classy, and very genuine. So I love Shorthouse. I also love John Garrett. I've been blessed to meet him a few times too. And not just because he's a good Catholic man and goes to a parish out in Delta, but I think John Garrett is great for his role. As a color man, you're not supposed to talk as much as the play-by-play man, but you're supposed to insert yourself in certain places, highlight certain things, point out certain things, and usually the color man is someone who's played the game before because they have a different level of knowledge than, say, the play-by-play man. The play-by-play man, see, you can tell I wouldn't be a good play-by-play man. The play-by-play man is a good, think on his feet, good with words, and whatever it may be, understands, of course, some technicalities of the game. But the color man is the guy who's usually played before and can bring a new level, a next level of insight. And John Garrett does that very well, especially when it comes to goaltending, right? Because he's a former goaltender, a lot of the nuances, when he's talking about Jacob Markstrom or Thatcher Demko, he talks about some of the things they might be thinking or what they did well or what they didn't do well. And of course, just overall knowledge, knowing how an athlete has to prepare and knowing all the nuances that happen inside of a game. And I think John Garrett, he doesn't take himself too seriously. He does a great job, but he likes to have a lot of fun, and they poke fun about his eating habits or some of his quirks, and that quirky personality comes out on the TV. So I think Shorthouse and Garrett make a really good combo. Now, in the article in The Athletic, they said a lot of these similar things, how they have good chemistry, how Shorthouse is really, really knowledgeable, and they're kind of split on John Garrett, especially the out-of-towners couldn't really, didn't know if a shtick was, all legit, or if they found that John Garrett, it was kind of biased, but a lot of the color guys are, and that's why it's called a local broadcast, right? Not a national broadcast. But they also pointed to his knowledge as well, and the writer also talked about how John Garrett seems to have a knack for being quiet sometimes, and then, like I said, the play speak for itself, as well as Shorthouse does, and as well adding his own technical nuances and expertise in. So I like the team of John and John. I think they're great. I think they're a good balance of fun yet knowledgeable, and most importantly, they do a good job of describing what's happening during the course of the game. Now, where the Canucks broadcast lost some marks was sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they go to the national panel, right, where it's Brian Burke and Kelly Rudy and other guys, but they're Elliot Friedman sometimes, but those guys are based out of Toronto. So although it's nice to hear the expertise of guys like Friedman and Burke and Rudy and those guys, I think to be a true local broadcast, you like those intermission panels and those interviews with players that are playing in the game right now, both home and away, and the panels with guys like Sat Shaw and Andrew Walker and Ian McIntyre and of course Dan Murphy. And that's who I also want to talk about. Dan Murphy was mentioned in this article as basically the third man of this three-man team, and Dan Murphy is universally loved because he looks good on camera, he's a lot of fun, but he knows his stuff, and he's funny, he's articulate, he's intelligent, all these things. So Dan Murphy adds a lot to that broadcasting team of Shorthouse and Garrett. So as a trio, they're really good, the three of them, John Shorthouse, John Garrett, and Dan Murphy. And together, especially when they do local things and don't have to throw to the national panel, depending on where and when the game is, then they're ranked very high. And 12 out of 31 is pretty good. And just to break that number down just a little bit more, they ranked third when it came to local, meaning of all the fan bases ranking their local teams. They finished in third place, which that means basically 80. I think I read the number 87% of local people, Vancouver market people, Lower Mainland people, gave the team of Shorthouse and Garrett the highest possible ranking. So that was third by local. By then they're only ranked 17th, so bottom half of the league when it came to non-local. And then it's not a perfect average. You just don't go 3 plus 17 makes 20 divided by 2 makes 10. No, they weighted it differently. Obviously, they gave a tiny bit more weight to the out of town because you get a more objective view, and that's how they came out with their 12th ranking overall. So I think it's fair. I think it's fair given how I think they're pretty good. They're not perfect, but they're pretty good, and I think they've been great for Canucks fans over the years. Now, if you want to know where Vancouver sits compared to other Canadian cities, they came in third. We had Ottawa coming in 5th, Montreal coming in 7th, Vancouver coming in 12th, Winnipeg coming in 15th, Toronto coming in 22nd, Calgary 25th, and Edmonton 26th. I didn't read through all the write-ups, but you can go, if you're an Athletic subscriber, you can certainly go to it and read. So again, Vancouver came in third of the 7 Canadian cities. And if you want to know who won overall, they ranked Carolina as the best local broadcast. And surprise, surprise, the team that was the broadcast that was ranked worst, 31st overall in the entire league, was our friends from Boston. The Boston Bruins, known as using a lot of cliches, very homeristic. Is that even a word? They're very not objective. They're very biased. And again, you get that a little bit, and you kind of want that. You don't want just a straight lace. Obviously, your local broadcast team is going to know more about the local team, the team that they are covering 82 games a year. And they're going to obviously want them to win. John Garrett, a former Canuck, and both of those guys calling, especially if you're following a team like the Canucks who haven't made the playoffs in 5 seasons, you're going to get excited when they win a game in overtime, or when Pettersson or Hughes or Besser, Toffoli or Horvat or Miller does something exciting. So all those things, you kind of get why there's certain homerism when it comes to local broadcast. So overall, Vancouver Canucks 12th. Love to know what you think, Canucks fans. Do you think that's too high? Do you think that's too low? What are your thoughts on John Shorthouse? What are your thoughts on John Garrett? And what are your thoughts on Dan Murphy? Would love to know what you think, and tell me do you agree that they're kind of in the middle of the pack when it comes to the overall league and when it comes to Canadian teams? And have you ever heard a Carolina broadcast? Have you ever heard a Boston broadcast? We know we've heard a Chicago broadcast. We saw that on air a couple days ago. And what other broadcasts have you had a chance to listen to or to watch? And tell me what you think of them. I would love to open up the conversation, been getting better at replying to comments once again. So please leave a comment. I love to read, react, and reply to them. Subscribe if you like to, like this video if you like to. Join me tonight on YouTube, 10 o'clock for my weekly live stream, my semi-weekly live stream. Would love to see you there. And most importantly, take care of yourselves, take care of one another. Be safe, be healthy. God bless. Go Canucks, go.